Hey and welcome! I'm Hammeh, and in our ongoing journey through all Overwatch lore, it's time to investigate Overwatch lore myths on whether they are fact or fiction. In this video, I'll be going through what I think are the top 5 Overwatch lore and story myths that people seem to believe about Mercy, while explaining what we actually do and don't know. Before we get into the myths and try and separate the fact from the fiction, please don't think that I'm pouring water on fanfiction or theories. Overwatch's story is told from so many different places, it's a young universe and game, so there's a lot we don't know, and a lot that people make assumptions on. Making theories is half the fun, of course, and it's exciting to think what our favourite characters might have been up to or alike. So, although we can't say for sure what is the case for a lot of Overwatch's story and characters until we find out from Blizzard, there's a lot of speculation going around sometimes that's based on incorrect facts or commonly held beliefs. That's what we're going to bust or debate, not anyone's creative imagination. Shine on, you crazy diamonds. Okay, on with the show. Myth number 5. Mercy was in the original Overwatch strike team. The myth is that Mercy was a member of the strike team, and a lot of people really believe this for some reason. However, the fact is that she's never been stated as one. The first team that brought the Omnic Crisis to an end was Morrison, Reyes, Torbjorn, Reinhardt, Ana and Liao. With the cancellation of Overwatch's graphic novel, First Strike, we'll perhaps know the story of these characters in more detail in future, but Mercy was not one of them. So why do people think that Mercy was? This is sometimes confused due to people thinking about Mercy's age, which leads us nicely on to myth number 4. Mercy doesn't age or is immortal. Well, the myth, some people love thinking that Mercy doesn't age, and that perhaps it's due to either her technology use or perhaps other reasons. People have liked to say she's magical, immortal, and all kinds of things. People like to cite the May series of interactions Mercy has as supporting this, as well as confusion around various images of past Overwatch events we've seen, and other things. Here are the May interactions before we bust the myth.
Dr. Ziegler, I don't think you've aged a day since I last saw you.
And neither have you, May. May, you haven't aged a day. What's your secret?
Cryostasis, but I'm not sure if I'd recommend it.
Okay, well, what are the facts that we know? Mercy's aging has perhaps been confusing at points, but with a few clarifications, we can still piece it together. Timeline-wise, Mercy is 37 right now. She would have been a child of 7 or so when the first Omnic Crisis struck, given that was 30 years or so ago, and my personal timeline estimate here, she might have been 11 or so when the first Omnic Crisis finished. With this rough timeline, and Mercy's child prodigy-esque learning, I'd think of her rise as being like a Tony Stark level of intellect. He entered university at 15, he was a very young genius as we know. This would lead to Mercy joining sometime in the later stages of Overwatch's golden age of 2 decades of world peace. Remember also that Mercy's around 31 when the Swiss headquarters blows up, which is very roughly either the end or the beginning of the end of Overwatch as an organisation. Some people will cite this particular photo as an anomaly in Ana's origin trailer, and also above Torbjorn's mantelpiece in the recent Tracer Reflections comic, it shows a younger McCree and Mercy as well as a pretty young Farah, leading some people to wonder when Mercy joined Overwatch. And how does it sit with her biography stating that Ziegler's breakthrough in the field of applied nanobiology radically improved the treatment of life-threatening illnesses and injuries, and it was this expertise that attracted the attention of Overwatch? Well, I think this can be quite easily explained. If Ziegler's based out of Zurich, Switzerland, an orphan of course due to her parents being lost by war, and a bit of a Tony Stark style genius, the chances are that she may have had an opportunity to run across Overwatch before she actually formally joined as head of medical research. Remember of course that Overwatch's headquarters was also based in Switzerland. If that happened, it would be really great to find out, and could of course explain what she's doing in this picture. Recently, it's also been stated that in the celebration and medals images, Morrison, Reyes, Ana and Torbjorn should all look older respectively. By making them older, this very much sets both images in the later stages of Overwatch history, meaning that Mercy can very comfortably be present, along with Tracer, Winston, Genji and others. If that's not enough, then finally, lead writer on Overwatch Michael Chi has said definitively that Mercy does age, along with other characters that people like to speculate about, such as May and Tracer. So there you have it, a few things that Mercy definitely isn't with regard to Overwatch. Myth number 3. Mercy is evil. Well, this is a myth that a lot of people like, and it's quite a common headcanon. Mercy is some kind of mad scientist or doctor in this universe who experiments on her patients, has pushed her nanobiotic technology with terrible consequences, or some people cite her technology as being the reason that a lot of bad things have happened to various characters in the Overwatch universe. Let's say Widowmaker, some people have said Reaper is a very common example. Okay, busting this myth. Well, a lot of little things point to Mercy as being a generally good character if her bio isn't enough for you. An interesting little one to start with, if you look on Mercy's Valkyrie Swift response suit, it has the Latin statement of primum non nocere, which is Latin for first do no harm. One of the principal foundings of bioethics. It's not actually directly in the Hippocratic Oath, although some people think it is, but another way to state this is that given an existing problem, sometimes it's better not to do something in terms of care, or even to do nothing, rather than risk causing more harm than good. It's often invoked when debating the use of some kind of treatment that carries a risk of harm, but a less certain chance of benefit than the risk of harm that's present. So, Mercy has literally got a walking reminder on her suit that she invented not to do more harm than good. Mercy is also stated in her bio as spending most of her time caring for the broken and dispossessed in crisis areas around the world. She can also be counted on to don her Valkyrie suit whenever innocents are imperiled, and she's also a staunch advocate for peace, amongst other things. Doesn't sound like an evil inventor to me.
Helping those in need is its own reward.
Finally, we have a few examples of her actually stating her moral position on things. In Anna's reveal, we saw a Twitter image of a schematic for a prototype biotic rifle, where Mercy expressed her concerns about her technology being weaponized, in spite of Torbjorn's assertions that this rifle was only designed for healing purposes. Mercy's worry was that, regardless of the intentions of Torbjorn's design, this would start a process, a slippery slope, where it would be adapted to being used as weaponry, regardless of the intentions behind it. On top of that, Mercy also testified to the United Nations about the deteriorating relationship between Morrison and Reyes in the investigations after the Swiss HQ was destroyed and when Overwatch was being disbanded. When she spawns on Watchpoint Gibraltar, she'll also sometimes say this:
Overwatch was shut down for a reason. Maybe it's best it stay that way.
Now, admittedly, neither of these are proof of Mercy as being good, but I'd say it's fairly reasonable and grounded speculation to say that she'd be saying that Overwatch should remain shut due to its past transgressions. Now, from Olympia Shaw of Atlas News, we know that apparently Overwatch was accused of many illegal activities happening within its time that it existed, infringing sovereign territory, torture, and a lot more. Once the organisation fell, apparently, according again to Atlas News, many of these things came out into the open. Now, of course, who was guilty, and if people were guilty, Blackwatch members or otherwise, we don't know for sure. Given the reputation that Overwatch seemed to have had around its fall, Mercy's map interaction sounds like moral condemnation, fitting with her moral character as portrayed in her character biography. On a slight tangent, but people also do, when they talk about evil Mercy, love to cite her technology or advances she's discovered as being a cause of a lot of the ills of various Overwatch characters. So while we're here, and a little bit of headcanon on my own speculation here, not fact, I like to think of Mercy's advances in nanobiology as being like Bacta in the Star Wars universe, or something like penicillin in today's world. Mercy's made a major breakthrough in a field. She's known as the creator, discoverer of this particular innovation. This technology could then have been adapted, perhaps used within Overwatch in various forms, and maybe in other places too. We don't know whether the technology of Mercy's Caduceus staff has perhaps become truly universal in Overwatch's world, or whether it's only used within the organisation, but it's certainly spread further than just the use on her staff. Whatever it is, whatever it does, we can already see that it powers her staff, it powers Anna's rifle as we've seen in the schematic, perhaps given the similarities in the designs, Soldier 76's biotic field, if you compare the grenade designs with 76's biotic emitter. It also has to be said that we don't know of any proven instance of Mercy's healing or technology going wrong. If, and this is an unproven speculative if, it had, there's plenty of ways it could have done so without Mercy directly operating it or being involved. She didn't have to operate it to cause people's downfall in a Frankenstein-style evil manner that people like to theorise, although that's certainly a fun theory. Finally, Michael Chu has mentioned at SDCC 2016, Mercy is not an evil vampire. In jest perhaps, but also making kind of a serious point, I think, addressing this kind of speculation. Myth number 2. Mercy made Genji. Well, this is number 2 on the myth list, and it's amazing how people often cite this as being fact. A lot of people love saying that Mercy resurrected Genji, and she was somehow responsible for his cyberized state, leading to this common belief or commonly stated headcanon that we know for sure that Mercy was responsible for making Genji the cyborg he is today. Well, sadly, we actually don't. What are the myth-busted facts? Well, the fact is really that we don't know who had what precise role in Genji's cyberization, beyond the fact that Mercy intervened in probably saving his life. Why is this? Well, it's stated directly in Genji's biography. Hanzo believed that he had killed his brother, but Genji was rescued by Overwatch and the intervention of Dr. Angela Ziegler. As Genji's injuries left him clinging to life, Overwatch offered to rebuild his body in exchange for his help. So, note the emphasis here, it was Overwatch, not specifically Ziegler, that made this offer to Genji. I'd say that given Mercy's concerns about weaponization of her technology that we've discussed, and her motto on her suit, she would presumably have some qualms too about Genji being turned into a quote living weapon. Remember also the details of this offer from Genji's biography. As Genji's injuries left him clinging to life, Overwatch offered to rebuild his body in exchange for his help. That's a pretty tough deal, and what would have happened if he had decided not to help Overwatch? Maybe he'd have lived, maybe he wouldn't, but probably in whatever state he was left in by Hanzo. And given the extent of his cyberization, he was either left in a pretty rough state, or Overwatch went above and beyond what was required and kind of augmented him even further, which seems morally pretty much out of odds with whatever Mercy is portrayed as being comfortable with. It doesn't seem to me, from the little we know, something Mercy would really be happy with. Ziegler was already opposed to Overwatch's militaristic approach to keeping world peace, and only kind of really joined knowing that she could save more lives from within the organisation than she could from without. Finally on this one, let's think more broadly about Overwatch as an organisation. At its peak, we know that it had bases all the way around the world, it was looking into and supporting everything from disaster relief to space exploration, and the organisation was becoming pretty big. Now, given very rough timelines, Genj probably joined Overwatch in the Golden Age and probably towards the later part of it as well, and obviously after Mercy. I'd expect at this stage that Overwatch had a lot of smart people working for it, including Torbjorn, let's not forget. There are many kinds of medical practice, biological research and engineering. Given the resources that Overwatch had, I'd say Mercy probably wouldn't have made this offer to Genj, she wouldn't have perhaps been senior enough, or even been the person fully responsible in carrying out the cyberization. Let's not forget the timelines. Mercy has already become a prodigy in medicine, in this nanobiotic technology, in a very short period of time, age-wise. Becoming a prodigy as well in, say, robotics, this kind of engineering to do the cyberization, as well as in the medical field, that's asking a lot, even for a comic book style savant or genius. While we're on technology, as a supporting piece of thought again, I'd actually be really surprised if we ever see Mercy's technology in canon lore actually bring people back from the dead. Now, a lot of in-game abilities don't have direct explanations in lore, and we may well never get them. Remember, of course, that Overwatch in-game abilities and the combat that we are in is kind of separated from any story. As various members of the Overwatch development team have said, in-game is like us playing with the characters as toys in a sandbox. There's no reason for Reaper and Tracer to be fighting on the same team in the actual story, but they do in-game, or for 6 divas to be playing together in No Limits. Mercy's bio describes the effect of her tech, pioneering a breakthrough in the field of nanobiology that radically improved the treatment of life-threatening illnesses and injuries. So illnesses and injuries that threaten life, not necessarily bringing someone back from being dead. Although, of course, don't forget, technically, if you're being very technical, you can bring people back from the dead with a defibrillator if their heart has stopped beating for a certain amount of time. So Mercy probably hasn't resurrected Genj. She may well have stabilised him on the brink of death. That was what the intervention probably was, I would speculate. As a result, I'm very sceptical that Mercy's actually in canon lore resurrected anyone, the way she does in game anyway, let alone Reaper. But we'll cover that as number 1. Myth number 1. Mercy created Reaper. The myth and the legend that this is. Now, this is number 1 for a reason. It's the most, in my opinion, misquoted. Others' opinions may vary, yet it's caused the most confusion. Perhaps with reason in some areas, perhaps not so in others. So when I call this myth Mercy created Reaper, it really encompasses many headcanons and personal theories. Some people love to state any or all of the below. Mercy was somehow directly responsible for Reyes' current state. Other people like the evil doctor theory. Mercy did some kind of experiment on Reaper and it went wrong. And finally, there's the quite common botched resurrection theory. Mercy attempted to resurrect Reyes following the Swiss HQ disaster, and it somehow failed or only partially succeeded, so Reaper is in the status he's in thanks to Mercy. Right, let's bust this one wide open. Where does this myth or thought come from? A lot of people base all of the above theories or spin-offs of them on a couple of fabled in-game interactions, which have since been proven never to have been in the game in the first place. Some people say that once upon a time, these lines were in-game. Mercy apparently said, "This is not what I intended for you, Reyes," and Reyes in response said, "You knew exactly what you were doing." So, if that was in the game, then it very much sounds as if all the people who have stated those theories have got evidence that Mercy didn't intend Reyes to be the way that he is, and that Reyes says that she almost did it on purpose, so you could have an evil Mercy or a failed resurrection or whatever you like off the back of that. Now, here's the thing. From launch onwards, and even a few months before launch, loads of people were citing this on Reddit and different places. You could see it all over the internet up to a certain point in early 2016. I never actually heard it as far as I remember in-game. I actually spent months looking for these lines in the in-game files from March or April 2016 onwards. Back in April 2016 in my Reaper video that I teamed up with the mystery guest voiceover on, we speculated as to whether this even existed or not. It's actually confirmed never to existed. Michael Chiu on the official forums stated as such. To double check it as well, I checked back my archives of Overwatch's sound files. I actually keep archives of every patch going back to early in 2016, so the open beta pre-launch. I can't find any interaction evidence of that as hard as I've tried. I also can't find any YouTube videos of beta footage with the above exchange in either. I can definitely see that these lines haven't been in the game from a certain date onwards in 2016 pre-launch. For those of you who believe that these lines did exist, there are two options. One, it's just become an urban myth and people are remembering incorrectly. Now, these lines were put on an unofficial but popular wiki for a while. People make mistakes. The source for the update on that wiki has since been confirmed as being from a Reddit post, so perhaps that helped spread and perpetuate this myth, albeit accidentally. The only other thing that could have happened is that the lines did exist but were removed. I don't believe this is the case. I'd take Blizzard at absolutely face value on this. Blizzard have quite happily stated since launch that they've needed to tweak or change other bits about the story, like Mercy's age, things that we've already mentioned in this video, so I don't see why this would be the case. What I did find was this Reaper line, which I shared in the Reaper voice line video in April 2016.
Don't forget, you're the one responsible for this.
I don't think this specific line's ever been in the game, although it was a real file in the game. If it was removed since then. So if the Reaper voice lines video confused you on this being an interaction with Mercy, my apologies. I think from what we've learned since, it's safe to say that if this line was in the game, it could have easily been directed to Soldier 76 or any of the they mentioned by Reaper in Arna's old Soldiers comic. In the comic, when talking to Arna before disappearing, Reaper makes it pretty clear that he holds either Morrison specifically or they, a wider range of people responsible for his current state, as we can see in this panel. They left me to die. Probably another clue that whoever was involved with Reaper becoming his current state, it wasn't Mercy alone, if at all. So there you have it. A few myths hopefully busted, or basis for headcanon now a bit clearer at least, around our favourite medic and guardian angel. Of course, until we get more on Mercy's lore and backstory, a lot is still up in the air, I know. I'd love to hear your theories on Mercy. What happened with Genji, Reaper or otherwise in the comments. Do you think that these myths have been busted or not? I'd really love to hear your thoughts. If you like this video, please like and subscribe for more, and do let me know what your thoughts are or what myths you'd like investigating next in the comments below. For more Overwatch hero lore, map lore, world lore, coverage of comics, animated shorts and everything to do with Overwatch's story, as well as voice lines and interactions, please do have a look at my playlists below. Cheers for tuning in, I've been Hammeh, take it easy.